Former Deputy President David Mabuza has passed away. This news just coming in this moment. Of course, we understand that he passed away in a Johannesburg hospital. Joining me now is Mzwandile Mbeje, just to unpack this development, and also Mzwandile is the politics editor of the SABC. Mzwai, devastating news coming through now. A former Deputy President Didi Mabuza has this has been an official confirmation that he has indeed passed away. Your reaction to this news?
Well, Unathi, obviously that is indeed very sad news that we have got. I know that there are still official communication that is to be made, but of course this is a former deputy president. There's huge public interest. He has not been in public for quite some time, so we do understand that he's not been well, and I think he was here in Johannesburg, in a Johannesburg hospital, and then that's when we have learned the news that he has passed away. So clearly a lot more is still going to come in terms of the details. At this stage is still very fresh, and I think many people are still processing this.
I mean, we got the news just a few moments ago, and of course we had to make sure and verify with various sources. And in fact, someone else who's been on the phone for quite some time is our senior reporter Samkele Maseko, joining us on the line. Samkele, what are you hearing at this moment? We do understand, of course, that the former deputy president passed away at a Johannesburg hospital sometime today.
Indeed, Unati, that former deputy president of the country essentially did pass away at a hospital in Johannesburg. He has been battling with ill health over a period of time. The family is going to be in discussions in the next foreseeable few minutes with the head of state, President Cyril Ramaphosa. We have been speaking to a number of sources within the political circles who have verified this particular news. This individual changed the political trajectory of the country, and his organization at the height of his political career touched the lives of many ordinary South Africans with his charm, with resolving their triple challenges of poverty, inequality, built a number of houses for poor people within his community, where he was ultimately a community leader, ultimately in the top echelons of government within that particular province. You are not going to reveal the name at this point in time of this former deputy president, in anticipation of the statement that is going to come from the presidency and from his political home, that he enjoyed membership for a number of years, that ultimately propelled him to the second highest office in this land of South Africa.
Absolutely, Samkele, and I would imagine that you will then keep us up to breast with, any information that you would be getting at this stage. I would imagine, Mzwandile, that the African National Congress at this particular moment is hardest hit in terms of these devastating news. Just the role that the former Deputy President Mabuza played, and the number of positions that he held, even in government. I mean, we know that he held a number of positions in government, including Premier of the Mpumalanga province from 2009 to 2018. One would imagine, given the fact that we haven't really seen him in the public space for quite some time, as you rightfully put it, at least for the past 2 years since he stepped down from his official positions. One would imagine then Mpumalanga, also the community there, also finding these news very hard indeed.
Absolutely, and I mean, he will be remembered, for that role, particularly in Nasrec, where perhaps people thought the presidential race could go one way, and he basically held the cards at the time, and then where he came up with what was called the Unity Project, where the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, then was elected, obviously, in the 2017 elective conference of the ANC. And that moment was a moment where the ANC was really divided in terms of who needed to be the president. Remember, the race was between Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and the current president. But of course, with the vote from Mpumalanga, that was not known where it was going to go, because in the preliminary races, the primary races, where the local elections of the ANC in the provinces was taking place, Mpumalanga, for example, didn't come with a name of the person who was to be preferred. In fact, it was quite interesting because they came with the name of Unity. You remember those delegates, they wrote Unity on that ballot box. So, which then gave him the cards in terms of who was going to be the president between Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and President Ramaphosa. And of course, that margin was not so big. It was, I think, around 78 in terms of the vote.
And I mean, Samkele, as we still have you on the line, we will recall, of course, 2 years ago when the Deputy President, David Mabuza, at the time, resigned as an MP first and foremost, following that request to President Cyril Ramaphosa to step down as his second in command. There was also quite a bit of confusion at that time, if you will recall, in terms of what that essentially meant. Not too long after that, we saw the swearing in of some MPs, also just signaling a change also, within the structures of the government at that time. Just take us back to those moments, if you can.
Well, Unathi, what we can say about David Mabuza is that he's always been a congressman. He's always been someone who's loved his organization, the African National Congress. He's always done what the ANC has deployed him to do, as Mzwandile Mbeja, our political editor, has so eloquently said, that he changed the course of the political trajectory of the country, of the ANC, at the height of his political career, at the time when he was seen as the Jacob Zuma protege, as someone who was very close to the former president, to the president of the African National Congress, then was outgoing Jacob Zuma, and someone who ultimately took a decision that many who were close to the former president failed to do and couldn't do in what they believed at the time was the need for the ANC to change its course. He ultimately took that decision with his province, Mpumalanga, that had grown significantly to being the second biggest province within the structures of the African National Congress. And ultimately, when he had to let go of the reins as deputy president of the country after he had lost out in getting a second term as deputy president of the ANC, he so gracefully at the funeral of his relative spoke about how the incoming deputy president of the country was deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, must respect President Cyril Ramaphosa, must give President Ramaphosa the space to lead the country, must be a buffer for the president. When he spoke at the funeral of his relative out in Barberton in Mpumalanga, which signaled that D.D. Mabuza was now gearing up to handing over his resignation as the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, particularly heading towards the 2024 general election. And it was after the ANC's conference at Nasrec in 2022. You'd also remember that there was also confusion whether he'd attend the State of the Nation address in 2023, where there was that confusion during that particular period. He ultimately ended up coming to the State of the Nation address in preparation for handing over power to Shipokoso Paul Mashatile, whom they also enjoyed a very close-knit relationship after the ANC's 2017 conference in Nasrec, when Paul Mashatile was the Treasurer General of the ANC, D.D. Mabuza was the Deputy President. Paul Mashatile had been instrumental alongside Gwede Mantashe, alongside businessman and philanthropist Robert Gumede in swaying D.D. Mabuza over to the side of Cyril Ramaphosa and not supporting Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, but D.D. Mabuza still maintained the same level of respect and maturity for all of his political opponents. As you will see as the weeks, as the days go on, that many political parties will be speaking so eloquently about their life and times with David Mabuza. One who comes to mind is the relationship David Mabuza shared with the EFF provincial leader in Mpumalanga, Colin Sidibe, the relationship he shared with the deputy president of the Economic Freedom Fighters now, with the former head of government in various departments in Mpumalanga. That would be Godrich Gati. They have a close-knit relationship. And also the relationship Mabuza shares with the incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa, the younger generation within the ANC, such as the former Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, Desmond Mwele, the former Provincial Secretary of the Youth League in Mpumalanga, Pulu